Tonight we visit Driftwood Village, a seaside community that builds its homes, tools and boats from the sea's leftovers. We will walk its lanes, sheds and shore, and see how each found thing is cleaned, sorted, and given a new, steady life. On the edge of a wide bay, the Driftwood village sits low and sturdy against the sand. Its houses are built from bleached planks, tied smooth timbers, and weathered pilings cut to size. Ropes saved from broken nets are stretched as railings, their fibres rough and salt stiff. Windows are patched with panes of old boat glass, pale green and bottle brown in uneven squares. Along the lanes, fence posts are drifted logs sunk deep and tied with rust-streaked wire. Buoys hang like bright fruit from porch hooks, each one stenciled with a number that once marked a trap. Ladders leaned from skiffs become stoops, and a door might be a hatch with a brass handle polished by hands. Underfoot, the paths are packed sand mixed with crushed shells that crunch softly with every step. The air holds the steady smell of salt, tar, dried kelp and wood that has seen many tides. Everything looks used and ready, a place shaped by patient collecting and careful making. A boardwalk stitched from uneven planks runs from one end of the cove to the other. Nails stand proud here and there, hammered over flat like small silver fish against the wood. Wind chimes hang from nearly every eave, made of shell rings, keys, and slivers of green glass. When the breeze shifts, they click and tap with a small, friendly music that never crowds the ear. Over the dunes, sea oats lean and recover, their seeds brushing against each other like low rain. Gulls coast past at shoulder height and then lift, their wings catching the air with a gentle scoff. A line of drying nets sags from posts, the mesh rising and falling like a quiet curtain. A little cart with a squeaky wheel rattles by, pushed by a teenager whose sleeves are too long. They are hauling a bucket of copper nails and a coil of rope saved from a storm-blown trawl. You can follow the cart and see where the day in this village is beginning again. The carpentry shed is open to the weather on two sides, and sawdust drifts out like pale smoke. Inside, Mara sorts planks by hardness, colour, and grain, tapping each one with a careful knuckle. She keeps a low bench for planing, its surface smooth from years of cedar sliding back and forth. A coffee tin holds bent nails that she straightens later with a gentle hammer and a patient touch. The scent is sweet resin and warm wood, cut by the tang of rope tar warming in the sun. On a shelf she keeps short offcuts for hinges, wedges, and shims, their ends labelled with charcoal. A cat has made a bed on a coil of rope, its ear flicking when a plane rasp scrapes a knot. Through the wall slats, light moves in stripes over stacked oars and the handles of old tools. She lifts a silvered board and smiles, because its edges match a gap in a neighbour's porch rail. By evening, that rail will be whole again, and the used nails will be saved in the coffee tin. Down by the slipway, the boatyard smells of pine pitch, diesel, and wet rope. Small skiffs rest on timber cradles, their patched planks held with copper roves and square bolts. A boy sands a keel with long strokes, then pauses to blow a fine chalky cloud from the wood. Corin, who teaches splicing, sits on an upturned crate and works a new eye into thick line. His fingers move slowly, showing the path, and the unlaying strands look soft, like corn silk. A chalkboard lists tide hours and weather, written with a stub that leaves faint white on black. Nets hang above on a beam, drips falling from them into a line of tins set out on the bench. Someone heats tar in a dented pot, stirring with a stick until it shines and loosens. When a boat slides back to water, it goes with a short groan and a soft slap at the bow. The wake spreads thin over the mud, and then fades into ripples under the dock. The market square is a broad platform made from pallets, braced and pegged into a sturdy floor. Stalls are built from crates and shutters, and their roofs are stitched sails, stretched taut with rope. Neela the baker opens first, setting out loaves with crusts dusted in flour and flakes of sea salt. She bakes in an oven lined with brick scavenged from a fallen chimney, the door a ship's steel plate. The fishmonger lays crushed ice in shallow pans, then tucks silver fish in rows with neat hands. Jars of sea glass stand at another table, sorted by colour, from clear to deepest cobalt blue. There is a tray of small hardware, each piece cleaned and oiled, with handwritten tags in neat loops. The bell that marks the hour is a buoy hung on a frame. Its rings soft and round in the air. People trade coins and favours, and they keep track with a blackboard nailed behind the tea stool. When you sit for tea, the bench under you is a split beam, planed smooth and warm from the sun. The schoolhouse is built long and narrow, with a roof of overlapping shingles, cut from drifted fir. Windows are a patchwork, some clear, some wavy. so the light falls in squares across the room. The chalkboard is a stretch of slate, salvaged from an old hearth, rubbed daily until it shines. Children write their sums on thin boards and wipe them with cloths made from old shirts. A map of the bay is painted on a sailcloth wall, with rocks, shoals, and the channel marked in red. On a low shelf sit jars with knots tied around them, each knot labelled and handled until it is known. The teacher keeps a small cabinet of finds, where smooth bones and shells are lined like a simple museum. A wind recorder sits by the door, its cups turning, and a pencil scratching tiny marks on a paper drum. When the class goes outside, they practice reading the clouds and measuring the height of a mast. They end by sweeping the porch, and the broom bristles make a clean brush sound against the planks. When the tide pulls back, the village spreads out along the flats with baskets and hooks. People walk slowly, eyes down, tracing the lines where weed and wood gather in messy arcs. A stout woman tows a shallow sled on runners, its bottom waxed so it slides over damp sand. Jory, who is small and serious, picks through the rack for glass worn soft at the edges. He carries a tin with holes punched in the lid, where he drops the best pieces with a careful clink. A little crab tries to run with a bottle cap, then folds under a frond when a wave slides in. A man lifts a long beam and calls for help, and two others join to shoulder it between them. They mark each haul with chalk on the sled, so the tally is clear when they reach the ramp. Gulls hop 2 steps back and 2 forward, watching as if they might claim the next bright thing. By noon, neat piles of wood rise at the high line, sorted by length, thickness, and kind. The footbridge over the creek lost 3 planks last winter, and today is the day to set them back. Volunteers arrive with beams and a basket of pegs, and the pegs smell faintly of linseed. Mara checks the fit with a square, taps a corner, and the plank seats itself with a tight knock. A boy holds a mallet too big for him, and everyone smiles when he drives a peg home straight. Rope lashings go around the handrails, each turn snugged with a wooden fid and a tug. The creek below runs green over a sandy bottom, and minnows scatter when a shadow crosses. Barnacles crust the old piles, and you can feel their roughness if you touch the dry tide line. Someone tests the bridge by walking heel to toe, listening for any hollow thump under the boards. When it passes, the sled of extra timber is dragged back to a shed, and the tools are wiped and hung. The last thing fixed is the name sign, its letters carved deep and filled with soot for clarity. At dusk, The long pier becomes a table, with planks scrubbed and set with simple plates. Lanterns made from jars and wire glow along the edges, their flames steady behind the glass. Bowls of small roasted potatoes, sliced tomatoes, and kelp salad sit next to baskets of bread. Someone grills mackerel on a grate over a shallow fire pan, and the skin pops and lays flat. A jug of water sweats against the wood, with slices of lemon and a few mint leaves floating. A fiddle starts up with a tune that rises and falls, like the quiet line of the tide. People talk low, pass dishes, and lean elbows on the table, the way tired bodies always do. Halyards tap against masts nearby, and the rhythm fits with the click of forks and the soft talk. A child nods off against a mother's arm, and a shawl is tucked over small knees and bare feet. When the plates are cleared, the lanterns stay, and their light paints a calm path over the water. The lighthouse here is not tall, but it is steady, built from stacked stone and a heavy salvaged lens. At night, Hestia climbs the iron stairs, a lamp in hand, and checks the wicks one by one. She wipes the lens with a soft cloth, lifting the corners where salt likes to linger and dull the glass. The beam turns slowly, sweeping the bay, and the mark is timed to match the chart in every boat. Nets dry on the racks in the dark, and they hang like dark squares against the paler sky. Cats slip between pots and coils, pausing to sit and watch the light make bright lines on the ground. The wind thins out after midnight, and the chimes quiet until only the smallest ones sound. In the harbour, a buoy bell moves a little and gives a low note when a swell reaches in. The planks of the pier creak under no one's weight, answering to small changes in the tide under them. Far off, a trawler hoots twice, and then the night is the soft sound of air, water, and wood. Once in a while, a hard storm passes, and afterwards, the village walks the shore with steady steps. They pick up rope, timbers, shutters and floats, and carry them to high ground to sort and clean. Hammerheads are wire-brushed and oiled, and hinges are eased until they move without a snag. Walls are mended with woven reeds over plank, and the weave is tight enough to keep out fine spray. Roofs are patched with shingles cut from drifted cedar, and each shingle is nailed twice for good hold. A path near the water is laid with flat stones and bits of tile. set in sand like a simple quilt. The broken parts are joined with care that shows in how square the corners are when they are done. They keep a ledger of work on a thick board, with columns for material, maker, and date. Nothing remains in a pile for long, because everything here asks to be given back to use. By the next week, the place looks like itself again, only with a few new stories held in the wood. Morning comes with light that runs over the water and turns every window into a small, bright square. The tide is low again, and tide pools hold tiny cities of creatures under the surface film. Hermit crabs jostle among snail shells, and little anemones open and close with patient folds. A child kneels and lowers a finger for a fish to inspect, and a quick flash answers and is gone. Measuring sticks lie on the sand, and each find is noted on a slate before it goes to a basket. Back at a long shed, the baskets are emptied onto tables, and the day's take is set into rows. One wall is a library of wood, with labels that say spruce, fir, unknown, and the length beneath. Another shelf holds glass by colour, rope by thickness, and bags of copper nails, sorted by head type. A small stamp is pressed into tags with the date, and a line on the ledger shows where it went. You could spend an hour just reading the shelves and know the rhythm of this place by its order. Before you leave, you climb the sandy path to the headland, where the village spreads below. Roof shingles show their set pattern, and narrow lanes run between houses like clean seams. Smoke rises from a few chimneys and thins out as the wind takes it away over the water. Boats move between buoys, and each wake makes a brief white line that softens as you watch. The chimes still tap in the breeze, and their sound lifts and drops as you turn along the path. Footprints cross the dune back and forth, and the sand takes their shape and then forgets it. On a railing at your side, a row of shells is set out to dry, stacked by size, from small to big. A dog trots by with a stick and stops to breathe and look, then carries on with steady steps. The village is quiet and busy, and the calm lies in how each thing has its place and use. When you go down again, the wood, the water, and the air make one gentle, even sound.